We're going to get started with hour 2. So let's dive into error handling, which at the moment is something our application doesn't have. If we were to make this kind of error, now fortunately this person's running this locally, we can see this site is not live on the internet. And let's say we accidentally put in the incorrect name of our server, what's going to happen with that page? We try and connect to a database and we put in the wrong server address. What are we seeing here? An error, but what information does that error include? It actually includes the name of the server that the user entered in their code, right? So not only does the page not look too good, but we've potentially given away confidential information, right? So errors happen all the time in our applications. So this could be one of them. We as a developer put in an invalid path, invalid credential. That would be one possibility. What else could go wrong? It could be anything. Could be our fault. Could be somebody else being the cause. What other things can go wrong in a web application? What could cause errors?
The user is literally actually trying to break something.
Okay, so we've got somebody trying to enter invalid data, either deliberately or accidentally, right? They give us data that's valid to them, but that our application isn't set up to handle because we didn't expect. So that would be one kind of problem. What else can happen? Don't. Which of these is the most common? 404, right? So that one's pretty easy. And on an Apache server, it's even easier. Right? So if I pull up athletes, all I have to do, because Apache's case sensitive, is capitalize one letter in my URL. What am I going to get? Right? This is the default Apache 404 error page. Okay? Not really what we want to show our users. Okay? In addition, we have these other, so we could have authorization required, bad request, among many others. Okay? So we need to trap for this. What should happen when I do this? So I've either mistyped it or even just put in a capital, and there's no way, I mean, I know as the developer, I know this is an Apache server, it's case sensitive, but how does our user know this, right? They don't know whether our server's case sensitive or not. So what should I get instead of this result? What should we show users?
An error page that can redirect to the main page.
Okay, so it would be better off, and this is part of the requirement, if I do this in my assignment, if I put in a capital A, we should give the user this, right? A 404 page that's styled like the rest of our site and that contains, you know, our navigation so we can get them back somewhere else. This is what you get on Apache by default. So we're going to certainly want to deal with 404 errors. Okay. So we can get bad data from users, either accidentally or on purpose, if they're trying to hack or break our site. We certainly can get 400 errors, 404 being the most common. What other kinds of things could go wrong in our applications? What other errors do you experience as an end user on a website from time to time?
Request timed out.
Okay, we might have timeout issues.
Latency?
Latency, yep. And that can be anywhere, right? It could be on the server itself, but it could also be at any stop along the way between your internet service provider and the server. So we're here at Georgian, you know, if I want to load Google's website.
That just came right through.
Right? There's probably a whole bunch of stops along the way my request took from Georgian's IP out to Google server. So if any one of those stops goes down or there's latency or delay, we might time out, right? And that's something that we can't control. We can't prevent that. But it could even be on our own host, right? They've had to restart the server, or some process locked, or another website on the server has been compromised. There could be a software patch that needed to be installed. Typically, they'll do those overnight in the middle of the night, but maybe someone's trying to access our website at that time. We don't know. Okay? So we could get timeouts. We could have these things happen that are beyond our control, but we should prepare ourselves for sure. The other thing that can happen is we can make syntax errors, right? Or we can make logical errors in our code that will generate errors. So syntax errors we could try to prevent by doing good testing, but certainly we can make logical errors that suddenly we call functions or we do things and we break our own applications. So we never want to give users this or something like this. Okay. So much like with a 404 error, how we're better off with this, what should we do in the case of something like this? What should we show the user, and what else should we be doing if something breaks in the application? Either because we've made a coding error or we've gotten some bad data. What should the user see and what should we do?
Well, the user should kind of probably get something similar to the 404 page that was built where they can redirect. And then maybe some way to contact the company or something.
Right, okay. You've got those are the two things. One is we're going to want a generic error page. So anything else goes wrong that isn't a 404, we'll take the user off to a page that looks pretty much like this one. Okay. We don't want to show them the error messages because we might be giving away part of our code or sensitive information. It also doesn't look very good, right? It looks like the site wasn't built by a professional. Because even professional, well-built sites at some point or other will crash. Even if it's not a coding problem, even if it's a timeout, right? We should show the user something more along these lines whenever any error happens. The other thing is, not only do we want, from the end user perspective, do we want to give them a friendly error page when we can, we also want some way of keeping track. So we basically have two options. First thing we could do is we could log the error. Now we could try and write it to the database, but that might not work because the error might be we can't connect to our database. In which case logging the error in the database is just going to generate another error. We could try to write it to a log file. We could write the error to a text file, and that's a common thing many developers like to do, is let's write it in a text file. I find an easier way that I like to be notified. Rather than have the user and user contact me, what could I do that would be even more proactive? Certainly that would work to give them a way to contact us.
Maybe part of the error page is it'll send you an email or some kind of contact with
That's my preferred method. Have it send an email with information about the error right to me. Okay? You look really good when your client calls you or emails you and says, oh, my users are saying I got an error on the website, or my users called and said they got an error, and you say, oh, I know, I already fixed it. Okay? So all of my applications are set up. Just freeze for a second. Let me show you how I would do this. I'll see if I can break one of my applications. So we did this actually at the end of last week. We looked at encrypting we looked at how to very quickly encode that ID number so the user couldn't change it. So I did something similar here. We had a quick look at it last week. Now, I don't think this will direct me to a friendly error page. It should. So if I try and change that encoded ID, well, I get a blank page. If I look in my inbox, let's see. All of my applications are set to email me the errors. So here's an error. Cannot find one of the tables in my query. It shows me the query string, so I know what page the user was looking at, and I can actually see what record they were looking at. I can see the function that generated the error, and I can see exactly what page name. So I've got lots of information, so I know where to look. I know what error happened, what page it happened on, and what record the user was looking at. So every morning I wake up and I get these in my inbox. Most of them are garbage errors, and many times I can tell they're caused by hackers. So when I see people try SQL injection in the URL, my error code traps it and it sends those messages to me. Okay. When I used to do work for Walmart, I'd get like 30 of these at 3 o'clock in the morning every single night in my inbox. And I could see people putting in SQL commands like drop table customers, delete star from orders. I'd see the SQL injection attempts in my emails.
Can you store the IP address of the person?
Yep, you could also record their IP address if you wanted to. You could send yourself that. Okay, so it's a good idea to be aware of these things. It makes debugging easier if they come to your inbox. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to apply a whole bunch of these techniques to our in-class application for error handling, 404, friendly error page, sending emails to ourselves. The other friend that we have, much like you do in Java with PHP, the other thing we have is try catch, right? So we'll try and execute a block of code, and if it doesn't work, we can handle that error, send ourselves an email, and take the user off to an error page if anything unexpected happens. There's a one limit with PHP try catch. It won't catch syntax errors. So if you leave out a semicolon, it's still going to crash. Okay, so you still have to we still have to test our code really carefully, because it won't test if we miss a bracket or quote or semicolon. Those things are still going to generate errors. The catch blocks in PHP are designed for execution errors. It's not designed as a syntax checker.
Only uncheck it.
Pardon?
Only the uncheck.
That's right. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do, let's make a copy of our Lesson 8 application. I'm going to copy it into Lesson 9. You can grab the solution off Blackboard if you don't have it. Or you can just take your files from last week. I'm just going to take a copy of my files from last week. So I'm going to grab all my files. We'll dump them in a Lesson 9 folder for today. You know what? Lesson 7 is the mid, so I think in terms of weeks, it's week 9, so I'm going to go with, there's basically no Lesson 7 because that was midterm. And if you're grabbing my files off of Blackboard, you'll need to open up the db.php file and put in your own credentials. So I've uploaded everything. I'm just going to make sure I can now go into Lesson 9 and things still work. So I can still list, add. Okay, so now I've just got an exact duplicate. So the first thing let's deal with, it's quite simple. The first thing we'll deal with is this. Let's get rid of that and replace it with a proper 404 page. Okay. So let's make a new PHP page for today. and I'm going to save it in my lesson 9 folder. And we'll just call it 404.php. I'm going to take out all of these HTML tags because these tags will come from 2 other files. What other files do we want to link in here that will contain all of the HTML tags? Yeah, we'll add header at the top, we'll add footer at the bottom. Header has these tags, and footer has those. So I'll get rid of them all. Let's include our header. And we'll include our footer. And as we said last week, we could use require or require once, include once. They'll all basically do the same thing and link to those files. So we'll just put a paragraph in the middle. I'll give it a bootstrap class. The class called well gives it a gray background with rounded corners. So you can put in any kind of message indicating the page is not found. You don't have to copy my text, it doesn't matter. So we don't need any of the HTML tags at top or bottom. Pretty simple. So upload this page to the server. Now, it doesn't get called automatically. Once we upload the page, if we try and go to a URL that doesn't exist, it's not going to automatically load our 404. We have to do a little bit of configuration, and I'll show you how to do that next. Okay? So the first step is building a 404 page. Step 1, let's build and upload our 404. Whoops. We're almost there. What do I need to do? What did I miss?
OB start.
Right, we need OB start and OB flush. So we'll call OB start. And flush. Can anybody connect to the server right now?
I'm actually getting a host does not exist. Apparently.
Host does not exist.
Maybe they went bankrupt. They shut down.
No. The site loads in the browser, their server's up. It's our connectivity to the server. Okay. Anyway, notice even though we have a page called 404, if I try and go to this one with a capital A, we still get the server's 404 page. So we need to do some configuration. So on an Apache web server, there's a file we can use to set some configuration values. So the file is called an htaccess file. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to create that file. It's basically just a text document with a strange extension. And we need to set it up so that when a 404 error code is generated on the server, we want to tell it to redirect the user to our 404 page. So I'll show you how to do this. I'm just going to keep trying to connect to the server. We may have to wait a bit before we can upload. Okay. So in my code editor, I'm going to choose File, choose New JavaScript File. This isn't a JavaScript file. So what I'm going to do is click File and Save As. And down here where it says Save As Type, I'm going to change this to all files because I need to use a different extension that the code editor doesn't recognize. The file name is .htaccess. So this is a Unix file. There's nothing before the dot. If you're working on a Mac, you won't actually see this file in your file system. Mac OS doesn't. It will exist, but you won't be able to see it in Finder. Mac doesn't know how to make sense of this file. It's a Unix file. So we'll just create the blank file. So the file name is .htaccess, and make sure you've said save as type. So it doesn't have another extension on the end. So now it says .htaccess. In my Windows directory, notice here, it's just .htaccess. There's no additional extension. So here's what we want to lay out in here. We want to specify the error document 404. So when the web server generates a 404 error code, we then just put in the full URL to our 404 page. So that's my path. Whoops, I left out COMP1006. So you put in whatever the path is to your 404 error page. So this will tell the server, if you get an error with the code 404, redirect the user to that URL. And then we just save the file. Now, unfortunately, until we can connect to the server, we're not going to be able to try this out. You wired, Austin?
Yeah. No.
Wireless?
Wireless.
No wireless goes out.
What's it called? Just .htx.
Just .htaccess only.
Nope. No cigar.
Yeah, it's just dying. I think it's 8
I thought we went everybody, yes. I know. Only one at a time.
That's right. Okay, Austin, if you were able to connect, let me put in so.
I disconnected now.
Did your htaccess upload?
No.
Oh, it didn't upload.
No, I just went to go and mouse and I folder it.
Okay, well, we'll just have to hope we can get connected. We can do some other things in the meantime.
So is this going to be our lab 3? Richard, is this going to be our lab 3?
Error handling will be lab 3, yes. Okay, well. We'll see if our connection comes back at some point. It often does at some stage. So there's our 404. That should be all we need to do. Build the 404 page, create the htaccess file, and point our 404 error page to that URL. So hopefully we'll get a chance to upload this before we get out of here. One of the other big error handling techniques is something we're already using, which is, if I open up, say, let's see, our save page. Yeah, let me open that too. So in our database.php, we've already enabled the PDO debugging. So we did that right from week 2. From when we started connecting to the database, we enabled that. So having that is good because this will let us trap any errors in our database. We also are using bound parameters, which helps prevent SQL injection and make sure that any values we're sending to our SQL commands are the right type of data and the right size. Okay, when I've taught the course before, I never actually showed my students this line and using bound parameters until this class. And I decided for you guys made sense, we would just do it the right way from the beginning. So 2 of the error handling techniques that have used to be part of this lesson are things we've been doing right from the beginning, really. So we sort of have 4 tools at our disposal. We've got the 404 page, we've got bound parameters, we have the PDO debugging. The one other thing we have available to us is try and catch. So the other thing we want to do is build a general error page that will be similar to our 404 page. And anytime we have an error, we'll add try catch blocks. We can catch the error, we can email ourselves information about the error, and we can show the user our generic error page rather than showing them an error message. So what I'm going to do, if we go to our 404 page, click File and Save As, and I'll just call this error.php. And I'll just change the message. So just some error, letting them know, yep, we recognize there's a problem. You don't have to report it. We're already doing the error tracking and we will deal with the issue. right? Because that also gives our end users confidence that even if something broke, it'll get taken care of. If we use site and we just see a bunch of error messages, it's an application or a site we're probably not likely to come back to. So we'll save that as error.php. Again, you don't have to copy my text exactly. Doesn't really matter what goes on here. Oh. Quick, how fast can I upload before it dies? Okay, so now if I refresh this, oh, I haven't uploaded my htaccess. So now htaccess interprets that 404 and redirects. If I go to ABC, 1, 2, 3, I'll make sure it keeps me on the 404 page. So this is something in your assignment I will do. I'll click on your link, I'll load your assignment, and then I'll type in the name of a page which doesn't exist, and I'll want to make sure I get a proper 404 page and not the server-generated one. Right? I still get your style sheet and your header and footer. Pretty simple. There's no real processing here, just setting up the htaccess file. So our general error page will look similar. Right? There's what we should get if anything happens in our try catch. We should get this rather than seeing the error. So we should go back to the pages here, our list page, our athlete page, as well as our page that does the save and does the delete. We want to add try-catch blocks to each of these. Okay? Then I'll deliberately make a typo in my code and we'll make sure that the try-catch is running. Any questions so far, or everybody okay? Okay. So I want to start on our athletes page. So I'm going to open that up. So what I want basically is pretty much all of this from when we try to connect and disconnect, this whole section in green, we should probably wrap in a try-catch block. Right? We're going to try to connect, run the query, and output the results, but if anything goes wrong, we want to handle that error and take the user off to our error page and send ourselves an email. Okay? So I'm going to highlight that whole section. I'm just going to hit Tab to indent it. You don't have to, it just makes the code more readable. So here, we're going to try and open a curly bracket. We're going to try to execute all of that code right down to disconnect, and then I need to close the curly bracket.
Should you put con equals null and finally? So that way we close the connection even if there's null.
Yes, we could do that. Except we're going to redirect in the catch block to the error page. I'm not sure if
we can.
Yeah, the finally won't run. So we're going to catch. So if an error happens, we're going to catch an exception. Whoops. Notice it's blue. It's recognized as a PHP keyword. I'll just give it a variable called E. E standing for exception. So if an error happens, we'll catch that error. So we're going to want to do a few things with that error. So the first thing will be email ourselves the error details. So we'll use the mail function. Put in your student email address. Don't put in mine. I won't be happy if you start spamming me. Put in a subject, and then for the message, I'll just use my exception variable E. That contains all the information about what happened. So we'll send ourselves that message. We'll redirect the user off to the error page. Now, right now, there's no way to generate that try-catch because our code actually works. So I want to break the code so we can try to trigger our catch block and see how it works. So the simplest way to do this would be I could just capitalize a letter in the table because our server it's a Linux server, so it's case sensitive. So that'll break it. So go to your query and change one of the letters so that it's a capital, because in our database that table name should be all lowercase. So now we'll save that change, and then let's upload this page and refresh it, see what happens. Okay. So I've got try starting above the require once. I've changed the name of my table, and then I've added this code in green at the bottom after con equals null. Darcy?
Where did you add the opening PHP tag for that?
It was already here. The PHP tag was already open.
Okay.
So I just put this right before we tried to connect is where I opened the try. So the PHP tag was already here from last week, right at the very top.
Can you see your catch one more time?
Sure. I guess I'll put in a comment. Load the generic error page.
Don't you want to close the connection before meeting?
The thing is, the connection, it may not have connected, so we might generate another error. If the connection failed, if that's where we got the error, so because it could be that the connection attempt times out, right? So you could try, but that may generate yet another error. So I'm going to upload the athletes page. I'm going to try to upload the athletes page.
Are you on your laptop? There's another way too, is if you hotspot your phone.
Yeah, I could try it. I could try that.
Yeah.
Huh. Can I use your phone?
No.
Got some weird stuff on there that you.
Yeah, okay, we could hotspot. The phone's not a bad idea.
Thanks.
Open a PHP tag here.
So, let's have a look at the lab requirements. Okay. So your lab is due tomorrow night. Here's what I want you to do for it. Okay. What I want you to do is implement error handling, the techniques we've gone through today, in assignment 1. So whatever site you gave me for assignment 1, I want you to go back over wherever you've used your database and add try-catch blocks on there, where you email yourself the error message and load a generic error page. Don't email the error messages to me, I don't want them. Okay. You've already got you should have bound parameters already in your code. That was part of the requirement already. And then a 404 page. So you need a 404 page and you need an htaccess file. So in effect, you're going to resubmit assignment 1. I'm not marking the stuff you did for assignment 1. I already did that. But I'm going to check that if I can break it, do I get your error page? And if I type in an invalid URL, do I get the 404 page? Okay, so I'm going to want to see a 404, htaccess, and error page, and I'll want to see try-catch blocks in your PHP code. Okay, it's not that big of an assignment because most of your websites were only 3 pages. If you built more, if you gave me 15 pages, yes, you don't have to do it on the whole thing. Okay, just include in your submission which pages you added the try-catch to. You don't have to do it for all of them. Okay. So in assignment 2, you'll need try-catch blocks on all the pages. You'll need the 404 page, the htaccess, and the generic error handler page.
So do we hand in our address?
Yeah, so zip the whole thing again, upload it to lab 3, and again give me the links. Okay, so just repost it. Sorry, Jess? Hasn't yet. Did it upload free?
But I still have to upload everything.
I don't know if you have to lock the screen. I don't know if it's going to show up.
Yeah, I can. Here, you can hide the characters.
Okay.
Yeah, so including
Much appreciated.
No problem. I don't know what the funky characters, but hey.
So I've just, oh, it's connecting.
Maybe you have to do something from Georgian.
Like from the wired?
Yeah, that's what I do. Just make sure I'm the only connection.
So now if I try and refresh my athletes page where the table name is in it with a capital A, I get the error page instead, and whether I'll get an email. We'll just have to see. Sometimes the messages come from DreamHost and sometimes they don't. I've yet to figure out why and when and why I get a message. If I don't get a message, but I see that you've coded it correctly, it was the same in the first assignment when you had to send email. I got confirmation emails in some of your assignments, not others. As long as I see the code's there and it's correct, then you get full marks for it, okay? That message doesn't seem to be coming in, but the code is there. It says I'm up to date. Okay. So we'll want these try-catch blocks. Really, they should be on, so our delete page should have it. Really up here, all of this code can go in a try-catch block. And our save page and our athlete page, they should all have this code.
Can we just use the function set error handler?
Yes, you could, if you want to. Okay, so there would be my catch on my delete page, and I'd also want a similar try catch both on the athlete page as well as on the save athlete page. And also our validate and save registration page should also have them. So I'm going to put it there. I can basically copy that. And don't forget your curly brackets. So your try has to be inside of curly brackets, and the catch needs its own set of curly brackets. So I've added this with the try up above.
So, do we try and catch those in pretty much every website that is left to the database?
Pretty much wherever you're connecting to the database, yes, you'd want that connection and whatever code you're doing with the database to be inside of the try block. Because that way, any errors in your SQL are handled. Any errors you have connecting to the database would also be handled. So if the database server was being restarted or there was a timeout, the try catch would show the user this, and you'd get notified of that error. So if you have a page that's just HTML, like let's say your login page, you don't need a try catch block on the login page. You're not doing any processing with the database or any logic there. So I would put similar code on my save page. Again, right before I connect to the database, I'll put in a try statement right before my require once. And all the way down to my last line of PHP. So that can go inside my try. Try to do all this, try to do the insert or update and redirect. And if I get an error, send myself a message that says save athlete. So I just added this below. This was the last line of our PHP block, and I've added that section below with a try up at the top. I realize I've gone past 3, but we're just about finished. I figured I'd keep you for a few extra minutes and let you go early. And same at the top of our athlete page would be our last spot. So maybe right under our header, I'll do a try and a catch. I'll indent all of this so it's more readable. We already had that bracket, so I've added this code with try up at the top. Generally, we tend to add the try catch once we're ready to start testing our application. When we're still developing it and the site's not public yet, it's easier if we leave try catch out. If we're going to make mistakes, it's easier for us to fix them if our pages crash and we just see the error messages. We don't want to see the generic error page when we're doing our testing our own work or developing. So typically try catch is one of the last things we do after the application's already built and tested. Then we'll go in and put the try catch in before we put it onto a live web server. So try catch can happen at the end of the development process. Does anybody have any questions about any of the error handling techniques we've done today? Do you think you'd have any problem doing the lab or implementing these on your assignment? If there's anything you're not sure about, please ask.
Can you just go up on this page?
Sure. So I put the try before our is set. If you put it higher, it wouldn't matter. Would still be okay if you did it even right at the top, no problem.
It will checking all the syntax errors.
It won't check syntax errors.
Only
It
for
will
the-
check operation errors, execution errors. So if I do this, it's going to show as a syntax error. The catch won't read that. It's not designed as a syntax checker. Okay? So if I do that or leave out that bracket, now I have one open and no closing bracket, the catch doesn't get that.
Only the runtime error.
That's right. Only runtime errors, not syntax errors. In some other languages, it will also catch the syntax errors, but not in PHP. Okay, so we have to do a good job testing and checking for all the syntax errors before we add try catch and publish our site and make it public. That's our responsibility.
Can you customize the exceptions, like, you know, like?
Yes. Okay, that's a very good, Yash has raised an important point. Some people, some developers would say, this is really not a good practice to catch all of the exceptions generically, that we should be trying to catch specific kinds of exceptions. There's nothing wrong with that. So for example, we could have multiple catch blocks. We could do this. We could catch a PDO exception. So that would be if something happens with the database, like mistyping the name of a table in our SQL. We could trap for particular kinds of exceptions, and many developers say you should be doing this. You should be figuring out what kind of exceptions your code in one section might throw and trapping each one specifically. If you want to do that, that's fine. In my opinion, unless your application's really large, I think that's a bit of overkill and unnecessary. If you want to, it's certainly not incorrect. And some developers would say the way I've shown you, just use try catch is inappropriate for a PHP application. There's a good deal of debate. So it's up to you to use whichever style. You have to have some form of catching exception handling. I found through the years, I've used this minimalist version with just a generic try catch. That offends some developers' sense of what's right. So if you want to have more structured exception handling, no problem, go right ahead. So this is kind of a minimal way of doing it. To my mind, it works. Other people would disagree. Okay, so you can do it however you want. Okay. So I don't think our server's come back to life. Oh, it has come back to life. So I'm just going to re-upload those pages now. So now we've got error handling on all of them, which is good.
Probably should start using it on localhost, because you know,
We might.
minutes of the class goes in.
Yeah, but then we're going to have to spend a lot of time configuring localhost every class. It's okay. We got through everything I wanted to do today. Yes, a bit delayed. We'll still get out of here. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I will put the files up on Blackboard. So you have until tomorrow to add error handling for assignment 1. And then you have until next Monday night to do the first part of assignment 2. Okay. I do have office hours, so I encourage you for both parts. Start early, so if you have problems and you need help, you have time to either email me or come to office hours and get help for your assignment. If you leave it to the last minute, you won't have enough time to get help and make changes. Okay? So next week, what we'll do is we're going to deal with file uploads, because you need that for part 2 of the assignment. So we're going to add on here to our athlete page, we want to add on an image upload. So when we add or edit an athlete, we can put in a picture. And then we want to generate show little thumbnails in here so that we can see the thumbnail and then click on that image and see the full thing. So we'll look at how we do that. That'll be our class for next week, and that'll help you with this part of your assignment, uploading the logo. You'll have what you need for that. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for sticking around a bit longer. If you have questions, I can stick around and answer them. Okay, have a good week.